Howdy, howdy, howdy. It's time to actually take a look at some of the books I got this week while it is still this week, seeing as my last couple of videos have been a bit late. Basically everything I've got here to show you today came in one nice little compact box all the way from Mantis 99's. Yes, the truly ever awesome man that is, well, his name's Dan, that's a lot easier to say than Mantis 99's. He sent me a nice little lot of goodies in a gesture which stems from Toy Fair angst, I suppose is the best way to describe that. When the Toy Fair pictures came out and all the new generations figures were revealed, and everyone on Twitter who lives over here basically said, oh, we're never going to see any of them, Dan asked me if I would like him to pick me up any of the stuff that is actually around in shops in America at the moment. Because of course, you know, that's still as hard to acquire as things that don't actually exist yet. So I asked, could you pick up the Minicon team for me? And sure enough, he did. And in a real bit of kindness, he only charged me for, I think it was the shipping. So, I probably shouldn't say, but all in all, this cost me under 10 quid. Quite a bit under 10 quid. So that's pretty excellent. But not only did I get those, he also threw me in some random bits, which I'll talk about now just to get out of the way. Basically, I've got a small assortment of odd things here, which did all fall out of the box into a sort of ready-made scene. It was a bit weird because I instantly just sat them all down and I'd made a little scene with little tiny Captain America here, stood atop this Minicon missile launcher, fighting a massive mantis. And that was hilarious. The mantis basically makes the whole package. It's like his calling card, and I sat there looking at it thinking, I really hope he has a big box of these. Just sat ready to pluck one out and chuck in a package whenever he sends anyone anything. And apparently that's the truth. Dan told me that he does actually have a box full of mantises that he got at the dollar store that he will just throw in packages when he sends people things. And that's just like the best thing ever. Mantis aside, yes, I've got a tiny little Captain America who is really small. I don't know what he's from, but it's something, you know. He can actually stand atop this Minicon that I got as well. And the Minicon is, I believe, I had to find this out afterwards because it's not one I recognised. He's not one that I don't think ever came out over here because he's part of one of those Cybertron 2-packs that are just repaints of Armada Minicons. But I would have never seen him, and just something really obscure. Yeah, it feels really nice to get something really obscure. Yeah, I later found out that his name is Thunderblast, which is a bit weird because when you say Cybertron Thunderblast, you think of that girly boat, not a little Minicon missile launcher. I don't know why they decided to use the same name for a completely different thing in the same line, but there we go. I quite like him. One thing you might notice straight away, which I didn't because I thought purple goes with this colour scheme, is that this isn't his missile. I don't know whose missile this is. Maybe one day I'll end up with the correct missile for this guy. Yeah, I didn't notice that as soon as I got it. It came to the point where I tried to fire it and then realised it's not long enough to poke out the end for you to push it out. That was sort of what rang a couple of alarm bells in my mind, but whatever. It fits. He's just a repaint of Armada Bone Crusher, which is a Minicon. Actually, yeah, that was from the first ever Minicon team I got, so it's a mould I'll have had for a very, very long time. But I still really rather like it. One surefire way that never fails to make me happy is random Unicron Trilogy inclusion in anything. So just having a random new Minicon like this is great, and I think I like him as much as the ones I paid for, just because he's something special, he's a bit of a surprise, something really random that can stand on my shelf, and I'm just happy with him. Thanks, Dan. So on to the Assault Team in their combined Centuratron mode. Yeah, I'm going to show you the combined mode first, just because that's the easiest way to illustrate the fact that Dan didn't send me the instructions to these. Haha. I mean, I have to say, I did want these all sealed in their packaging and everything, but that would have made the shipping sky high, so I'm perfectly fine that he just stripped them down, just sent me the bots in the box rather than all the plastic guff. And while I would have liked the card back, I'm fine with not having it, but the instructions were one thing that he could have fit in the box, I have to say. Yeah, as far as I know, this is correct. I had to sort of make it up as I went along and sort of think, okay, is this how it goes? I'm guessing that this is 90% correct. I mean, it's not really that hard to combine it. really at the end of the day, but it's extraneous pieces like some of the smaller robot arms. I don't quite know what you're supposed to do with those. But either way, here's my Centuritron. He's quite good. It's not really as imposing as I thought he was going to be, but he does stand at, deluxe height, so I guess that's fine that he's a deluxe price point. Whereas of course all the Minicon teams back in the days of yore would have been the Scout price point. Yeah, I quite like him just because he's a lot better than any of the other Minicon combiners we've had in the past, but then those are only like Armada and Energon Perceptor. So yeah, just being a different character makes him by default better than them. He's quite poseable, shoulders and elbows, hips and knees, but that's about your lot. But he's quite sturdy with the way he sort of all pegs together, that's quite good. But of course, you can probably see straight away the proportions aren't really right, are they? His torso feels really long. It's like you've got heads, shoulders, massive void, knees and toes. Yeah, there's just not really a lot going on in his middle, and it's just a lot of space that makes him feel a bit odd. And then with the way his legs are sculpted, because they have to go together to form the torso of the little robot down here, it just looks like he's wearing really baggy trousers. I don't know. There's a few things here which aren't that great, and to be perfectly honest, I would have thought in this day and age they could have done a little bit better. But all in all, it's not that complicated, which is good. It's nice and sturdy, which is good. And in a nice little, I don't know if it's a twist, of course these guys are the basis to the Ammonites in More Than Meets the Eye and Dark Cybertron, who are omni-combinational. This can get a bit omni-combinational. At least the shoulders torso connection is just a 5mm peg and post. But I have heard that if you get multiples of these, they do combine to just make bigger and bigger ones. Say if you've got 2 sets, you can make a big one. Have 3 sets, you can make an even bigger one. And I'm genuinely considering getting another set just so I can try that out, because they do feel pretty genuinely mix and matchable for a combiner team, and that's pretty good. Another thing that's mix and matchable is his big gun trunk here, which is just made of the guns of all 3 of these. And that's quite cool. It all relies on 5mm pegs and posts and Minicon ports, and that's nice. Just feels like you could do a lot with this guy's posts and ports and bits and pieces, with different guns and his guns and other people and all that sort of thing. So it's nice, yeah. So the combine mode, it's good, it's not great, but I certainly like it. Now let's strip him down and look at the individual bots. So here we have the Minicon Assault team of Runway, Heavy Tread and Windshear. I have to say, as a team, they do feel good, but they don't really carry through the old Armada Minicon team feel. They sort of flip it in a way, I guess. When you had old Armada Minicons, you had a team of 3 bots who were all very much the same size and had very similar alt modes, but had different colour schemes between them. These guys turn that around by being 3 completely different sized bots with 3 completely different alt modes, but the same colour scheme. Heavy Tread is, well, the heavy of the team. He's just a massive tank guy, and he really is massive. He's got to be at least 3 times the size of your regular Minicon, and he certainly makes up most of the mass of the entire set. I think he might be my favourite, just because he's got a bit of a sort of odd asymmetrical face like old Minicons had. He's got a sort of monocle eye, and he's just big and blocky, and he feels good, yeah. Although he is the most limited of the team, because he only moves his legs up and down, his shoulders up and down. But it's quite clever, because that movement there is the knees of the combiner. Turn him into a big black tank, and yeah, he just feels big. I have sat this next to my RID roll bar, and he's basically the same size. So this is sort of, Scramble City G1 limb size for a Minicon. So yes, he's pretty colossal. Then we've got Windshear, who's like the little stealthy helicopter gal. Yes, it's a female Minicon. You can sort of tell that by the way her legs are sculpted and the way they've made it look like she's got high heels on or something. But I think all in all, something more than those sort of design touches. It just feels like Arachnid. And there's a hell of a lot of design similarities here to her. So, I don't know, it feels a bit odd. It just feels like they've just looked at that and distilled the design down to this. Doesn't feel quite as original as the other Minicons, but she's still quite good. She's a lot more poseable because her legs will go all over the place and her knees will bend and her shoulders will go all over the place. But then of course come off. That's something I've got to say about this set. They're not that sturdy. It is a bit annoying when you're trying to combine them and they just crumble to pieces in your hands. Especially this one, because her arms come off, and then the cockpit will come off, and it is just a bit of a palaver trying to get these put back together before you can then put them all together into Centuritron. Her helicopter mode is quite good, you know, just a little helicopter, all the rotors go round, got a big minigun on the front. Can't really go wrong, apart from the fact you can see her legs. And then we have Runway, who I assume is the sort of snarky jet gunner of the team. He's pretty much, you know, your regular jet form affair, isn't he? His cockpit on the chest, and his arms stick on the side, and his legs go underneath and make jetty bits. Yeah, he's okay. Again, he's as posable as Windshear is, but his arms seem to come off a bit more easily. And he's just got these big, massive afterburners stuck on his arm as a gun. Pretty good. He makes quite a nice little jet. Well, it's not really a little jet, it's quite big for a Minicon jet, of course. But it is mostly engines. That's quite apparent. It almost feels like it's just a rocket that they've stuck wings on. But again, it's pretty good. Nice little different looking jet. So all in all, I think as an assault team, they work pretty well. You know, they've got different roles in the team, and they feel like, you know, they would actually work together quite well as an effective combat unit. Also, when you consider the whole team, they all have a couple of similar touches. The first being that none of them have eyes painted on. I don't know why. The Combiner head has eyes painted on, but none of these guys have their eyes painted. It's just grey and sculpted bits so you can sort of see where their eyes are, but they're not picked out. It looks a bit eerie. And then they've all got these sort of codes written on the side. I don't know why I'm illustrating that, you won't be able to read it. It just makes me feel like, I don't know, there's a little bit of a story thread going on here. I know that these would have come before their appearance in the comics, but they've all got these codes on that aren't like, you know, the weird little codes that are just for Hasbro's own use and are clearly just weird product code things. They are actually put there as paint applications that are, you know, meant to be there as some sort of detail, and maybe they reference something that only Hasbro people know about. But to me, they look like the sort of names that the Ammonites have in the comics, that are just an arrangement of letters and numbers and not actually a name like Heavy Tread. So that feels really good. It's like, Runway? Who's Runway? I'm VP51LN. But all this does bring me now to the subject of, I don't really know what the origin of this lot really is. I'd really like to find out more about what Hasbro were going for, the whole design process, and what they really wanted these little guys to be, because they don't feel like they're homaging anything. They've got the names of previous Minicons, and that's about it. I mean, Windshear was Wheeljack's Minicon, it was a little jet. No similarity here. Runway was one of the bits that made the Star Saber, and the two of them being a jet is where the similarity ends. And again, Heavy Tread being a tank is where the similarity ends between those two, because the old Heavy Tread was a little red Autobot sort of one, and this isn't anything like that. None of these Minicons are anything like anything that's come before, and it makes me feel like, well, surely they're just Minicons for a new audience. They're just, I don't know, a way to introduce Minicons to kids these days, because they probably don't know what they are. And well, that's good, and maybe it means we're going to get more. I hope it does. It just doesn't really feel like they belong in the Generations line. They're not classics versions of anything, and they are really Prime styled. They just, yeah, they look like that. They look like Minicons if they came in the Prime universe, or, you know, were made these days. It's all a bit odd, and it makes me think, you know, what is the deal with these guys? Because, I mean, yeah, you can still combine them like normal Minicons. You can stick them on the new Armada Starscream, but it almost feels like they made that Starscream, gave him the Minicon ports, because of course, you know, they had to really, but then realised there weren't any Minicons around to plug onto him, so they thought, oh, let's make some new ones. And while you can tell that Hasbro have had some fun making these guys being brand new things and something completely different, it just doesn't really feel like they belong with all the rest of the Generations figures. They feel like the single most enigmatic item in the Generations line, and they also feel like the single item that's made more for kids than anything else. I don't know, I mean, I'm not complaining, they're certainly very good, very fun little figures, but I'm just sitting here thinking, what are they supposed to be? So, I'm very happy with everything that came in that box, and would like to say a very big thank you to Dan, because he is just awesome. And I will put a link down there so you can subscribe to him. I don't really know why I should have to. Everyone should already be subscribed to him. I'm sure you must be. He does really good, obscure reviews that are just stuff I've never heard of before, and probably hasn't had another review of it done on YouTube before. So yeah, really sort of unique feel to his channel, and honestly, he deserves every subscriber he can get. So click on that, subscribe to him, enjoy his videos because he's just a top dude. Ciao for now.